I would like to welcome everybody who's here today for the virtual Careers in the Arts session. This is our second time. For those that are joining for the first time, my name is Jen Cumberworth. I handle the education and engagement work at the Hult Center. And today I'm talking with our Director of Theater and Facility Operations, Mr. Jeff Weinkauf, and our Assistant Technical Director, Nathan Cox. So we're going to just review some of the questions that I have here, and then we'll open it up to attendee questions. So feel free to write questions either in the chat or in the Q&A section, and we'll get to it as we go. So pretty much I just want to start out with, if you could give us an overview of what your job is and your daily tasks. And I don't know how we want to go about it, if you want to kind of go back and forth or one person kind of takes it on first.
Nathan, take it on first.
I have all kinds of daily tasks that I start. Hi, I'm Nathan Cox, and I'm the Assistant Technical Director here at the Hult Center. The camera's here, but you're up there. And so I'm supposed to be technically knowledgeable of all the stuff here. And I had thank you, Jen, for getting me connected on this Zoom meeting. I should know more about this. But I can talk about what my daily routine is, and that's my job description really entails creating a calendar and working with the user groups that come in, and coordinating calendars and schedules with the stagehands, and providing some technical support for the users that come into the building, whether that be a ballet or an opera or a Broadway show. And I provide I'm kind of the liaison for information about a user that needs to come on stage, or what their staffing requirements might be, how many crew they need, when they need them. So that's kind of a nutshell of what I do. And there's a lot of nuances with that. There's a lot of data that comes in that needs to be organized into a fashion that makes sense for everybody involved. Putting on a show here at the Hult Center it takes everybody. It takes marketing, it takes booking, it takes technical services, and we have this ops crew that is just wonderful to work with here. And Jeff being one of those people in the ops team. I also have Kim, who's here, Kim Whelan, and Louise over in the front of house area. And we just, in our custodial crew, we have a great ops crew that we get together, and we have meetings twice a week to discuss what the next week, what the week previous was like, and what we can do better, and the week coming looks like. And so my beginning of the day starts with time cards. So I'm the guy that deals with all the time cards. When stagehands clock in and clock out, and I make sure that those are put into a software system that accounts for their hours and gets them paid, and it also bills to the client. And so I could make service orders that's billed to the client later. So that's part of my job. Another part of my job, again, is creating calendars and advancing shows. So in some of these meetings, we'll advance shows with a user, say a ballet or we just did the symphony, the Eugene Symphony, on a Zoom call. And that's advancing a show is, again, getting all the needs of the client together and assessing that with crew and the technology and the building space that we have here at the Hult Center. And it can be quite complicated, and I can get quite lost and get into the weeds pretty quickly on some of these things, but that's kind of a nutshell of what my job is. Do you want me to go on some more, Jennifer? Are you gonna?
No, I think that's great. Jeff, do you want to give your daily tasks, or how your work goes day to day?
Yeah, I was trying to think about just how to quantify and put it into some different terms. So rather than just talk about daily tasks, I think areas of influence, like Nathan was talking about, are important to share. Example is, so when you have a big theater and a group full of people coming into it, when you're an end user or you're a person coming to a show, you see one aspect of it. You come through the front door, you come through the lobby, and you encounter people like ushers, and that's our front of house team. and you make your way through the door and you get to your seat, you sit there, and then the lights come on and the stage is open, and kapow, there's this big thing. So everything that that we do on the stage side happens on what we like to say is the other side of the plaster line, or backstage. And so our world kind of begins there, right? And so as Nathan mentioned, there's an operations team that spans the entire building. Like, we work everywhere in the building, but mainly Nathan and I and a couple others, our main tasks happen kind of at stage and behind stage. And it has a lot to do, it has we kind of encounter two kinds of people. We encounter big shows that come here to present for you, like a big rock tour that comes in on trucks and buses, and the whole show is encapsulated in that bus and truck show. And we're the building, and we're the people who help them set it up and tear it down. But the band and the sound and the lights and all that stuff comes on a truck and then leaves the same night sometimes on a truck to go to the next town and do things. That versus when we have a local resident company who's like the Eugene Ballet, who's dreaming something up, and they're coming up with all these ideas. Well, they don't have necessarily all those pieces. So they come here and they engage with us and use all the tools that we have in house, our lights, our fly space, in other words, all the things that move in and out on stage. Nathan is in charge of that, and he's run those pieces in his career, so he knows a lot about that. I can talk about that, but so we kind of engage two different kinds of clients roughly. One that comes fully prepared and is just ready for us, and we just help them present this thing. And then the other kind is where we help kind of create the art with the end user, that's the most fulfilling part to us. It's also the most challenging part, because you got folks that are dreaming big dreams. And what we say is they're the what guys and we're the how guys. Right. When somebody says, I want to come in and I want to come in on a jetpack, and immediately Nathan knows where to pick up the phone and say, okay, I got to rent a jetpack. And I also got to call the fire marshal to find out if that's okay to have a jetpack inside the building. And also I got to figure out how many seats I need to block out, because the jetpack's going to fly over people and we don't want to burn their heads. And, so there's all these just little logistical pieces that go into it. So that's the exciting part. I mean, all the paperworky things and all the things we have to do to make it work is, kind of life and what you do, but that's the big picture kind of kapow idea about what we do here at the center. We help art happen. We're the how guys to the what guys.
Yeah, it's like this big creative puzzle or something. It's really neat. I mean, how much it changes depending on the type of work that you're doing. So that makes sense that like your day-to-day is going to be different no matter, depending on what show you're doing.
Very common elements, but very different days. I mean, what's neat is we can kind of figure out a sandbox and we can say it's kind of the same things, but arrayed all different ways. And so anyways, yeah.
So do you have like you say that you can kind of figure out a sandbox. So do you have like the core elements of your job essentially, and then just kind of plug in the different aspects depending on the show?
Yeah, and everybody's got a different zone or area. So specifically to the theater arts or the technical side of it, Nathan's going to be asking a certain group of questions about a show that comes in. He's asking about sound and lights and video. We've got all this video gear now, cameras and LED screens that we're having, we get to use now. So he wants to know the specifics about how people want to use those things. And he's going to ask questions about that. He's going to want to know when people want to have want to start their rehearsal, because that's important, because when they want to start the rehearsal, he knows it's going to take me X number of hours to set up, and then I have to have the crew come in before that, and I have to kind of back time this whole information. So if somebody says, I want to start a rehearsal at noon, his brain is saying, we're going to have people come in at 7 or 8 because it's going to take 4, 5, or 6 hours to get this whole thing ready for that first moment. And so if you're in band, you hear your band director say it's about downbeat. When is the downbeat? Meaning not I walk in with my horn and do my case, get it out. It's like, no, I'm ready to go at this time. So that's downbeat. So a lot of what we do is help people understand that piece. Because again, when you're thinking artistically, an artistic thinker isn't always thinking logistically. And so the best technicians and the best people that work in the back end of theater are a little bit of both. They're the creative side, and then they're the logical logistics side too. And that's a rare and cool person who can do that. So
I think so.
Yeah. So if you're an artist who also likes to know how things work, that's like, whoa, that's like, yay, any red flags or good red flags, yellow flags, whatever color flags you like, pick a flag, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's a really special kind of person, and you're
Yeah.
very valuable to the arts and to arts production because of that, because you have to think both ways. So an explosive artistic thinker is just thinking all about this amazing piece of art they want to do, but they're not necessarily thinking about all the tiny little details that have to go into it. And you don't want just the tiny little detail person, because they're gonna think it through and maybe put it into a box that doesn't allow it to be that artistic piece. So you gotta flex and bend, and you say, we don't want the logistics people to run over the artistic people and tell them they can't, it's too hard. And you don't want the artistic people to run over the logistics people, because the logistics people are trying to just work with, physics and math, and it's the law, you got to obey it. So, there's this kind of balance between the two worlds, and that in a nutshell is what I do. I stand between those two worlds and help them, connect and intersect.
That's huge. That's a really nice way of explaining it too. Like just kind of understanding the whole picture and the little pieces. But I like what you said about you're the how. You guys are the how. How is it going to actually work? So you gave an overview of the work that both of you do, and that you get to do changes depending on the shows and everything. So what would you say are the best parts of your job?
Well, I could show some pictures of some fun stuff.
Yeah, pictures are great.
All right, let's see here if this works. Let's see from current slide. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's some stagehands that were working back in the day. Of course, times have changed. This is an old hemp house. We don't have a hemp house. We have a regular arbor system. But let me show some pictures of our crew is represented by by a union, and the union is called IATSE Local 675, and they were chartered on May 29th, 1929. And here are some of the categories of which people work backstage: rigging, fly rail, carpentry, electrics, sound, video, props, wardrobe, hair and makeup. Props is just short for properties. So that could be anything from furniture and or also orchestra pit sets. But each of these categories need to come together in order to make a show happen. And that means planning the rigging to see what kind of what type of things need to be flown in the air. What are their weight limits? Where on stage are they visible or are they not visible? The fly rail is a category of all the ropes on the side of the stage, getting a fly rail person that's competent, that can operate in a three-dimensional way so that nobody gets hurt when drops and scenery come in and out. There's carpentry that carpenters that need to be brought in that can build the set, construct the set, put the set together. Electrics are the area of folks that are putting together lighting and lighting equipment. Sound, obviously, soundboards, microphones, especially for concerts, and also sound throughout the building for their needs. Video, we have, like Jeff mentioned, we have all this brand new video gear that we're just now putting together because we're going to be going to more of a streaming type situation and provide streams as an option. Properties, wardrobe, hair and makeup, all these things need to come together. All those schedules need to come together. But when they do, it kind of looks like this to the naked eye. This looks like a mess. But really, each of these departments, each of these cables, each of these people that are involved all have a purpose here at the Hult Center, and they're valued. These are some different pictures of the area backstage. This is like the pin rail up on the left. And this is our projection booth with the audience loading in down below. There's just, there's so many pieces that come together, and I love this is what I love. I guess we can go to why I love this job. I love it when all of the pieces come together and we have a show. Mm-hmm. There's a great about the staff here. The average person that works here has been here 20 years, especially backstage. I'm one of the younger guys, and I'm 46. And I've been working since, 1997, I think is when I started. So yeah, I just enjoy working with all these people. these are just some of the elements that need to come together to make a show. I just want to show some of these pictures.
Yeah, these pictures are great.
Yeah.
Nathan, you mentioned the union, and that's a local chapter. So are you able to give kind of I know you mentioned the type of work that the union does, but this is an international union, correct? So
yes, it's the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. And this is the Local 675 is a chapter of that. And they've been, they were chartered, I see, and I had that slide up earlier. They've been around about 90 years. They used to be a projectionist union. And
okay.
then when the building was built the Hult Center building was built in 80 and then opened in 83.
I think.
83.
82.
The city of Eugene reached out to the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees and said, we really want professionals to be running this theater because we really want it to be world class. And that reach out from the beginning has created this cascading effect of a high bar, a high standard that the Hult Center always wanted to operate in, to where you have professional operators that can provide an ultimate experience for people out there in the audience. And
so, and in this union though, like they are also the same union that would work on film and like TV
correct.
shows. And so, okay.
Yeah, this is the same, like at the very end of just about every movie you see, you'll see the little IATSE bug, we call it, the little star.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this is the same union that operates studio mechanics, hair and wardrobe unions, and all the like, and they are here, and they're wonderful people to work with.
That's great.
They're really good at what they do. They're really efficient, really great, and most of my day is scheduling these folks to fit within a union contract. It's a contract.
And you were showing these time cards earlier, and that's what you were referring to, like
time cards.
Different union. Okay.
You know, let me just continue here. Ultimate goal is here's a beautiful shot of looking backstage. You know, the thing about the stagehands is we rarely want to be seen. We don't want to be seen from the audience. In fact, there used to be a rule that if you were seen, you could get fired.
Dressed in black, dwell in the back.
That's right. This is a beautiful. See, I think this is an opera, or this might actually be I can't remember what this was, but you can see the drop in the background there. I love this shot. And you can see Alex down there in the corner. He's one of the stagehands that's been here the longest. He's down in actually down in the center of the house, just kind of, you know, taking pride in what we've done and looking for any of the defects. And so that the experience from the audience perspective is just seamless, you know. Sometimes we've had, say, Jamie and Adam from Mythbusters came in, and sometimes the crew ends up being in front of the stage, and I kind of said that. Here's a good example of that. Let me see. I hope you can hear the audio in this. We'll see if it works. Yeah. Second. You can see, in fact, I don't know if Jeff has seen this. This is some of our crew getting suited up for the performance.
Oh, amazing.
Required to work on stage. And let's see if you can hear. Let's see if this works. Can you hear it? Can you hear it?
Yes.
Okay. This is part of the job requirement.
Oh boy. Are those paintballs?
Yes. And that's one of our stagehands, Bruce Dargay, getting shot up.
Amazing.
Anyway, you get the point. This job is very rewarding in many ways, and one of them is when you can be out there within the audience, and you get rewarded just from audience, you know, applauding you. And
Yeah.
love this. I love being a part of that. I come from being a stagehand. I was on the fly rail for for a better part of 15 years. So I was a flyman, and it's just very rewarding to be able to be in the arts and provide an experience for people in the house. That's just when you have that applause and people are happy about what they're seeing, you're happy about what you've done, and that's kind
Absolutely. Get to see the complete project. That's cool. These pictures are great. Jeff, do you have anything to add to, like, what do you consider the best parts of your job?
Gosh, my favorite part of a show is right before the lights go up, right before the big first note hits of whatever kind of show it is, Broadway, rock, it doesn't matter. There's the kind of the murmur of the crowd, the lights go down and everybody, there's sort of a hush and there's that breath everybody sucks in right before the first note happens. That's one of my favorite moments that I live in my mind. There've been few of them the past 8 months, so that's a little bit tougher, but yeah, no, I love that. My career path was a little bit different than Nathan's. I'm not a part of the union. I've never been a part of the union. Very much respect the union. Grateful for the part they play. And again, what Nathan was saying is so true. We have a Broadway tour pull through, and we need 50, 60, 100 skilled people. We pick up the phone, and it's so easy to call our local chapter and say, we need skilled labor right now, and they just come and they do a great job. So it's fantastic. I'm on the other side of it, where I was an individual contractor hired to do individual work, get on a plane, fly to a place, parachute in, do the work, and then parachute back out. I guess I don't know how you do that, but anyways, fly back out. And so it's great to be part of this team now in a single place doing great work with teams and things. So for me, the best parts are those moments before the show, and then working with great teams like we have here at the Hult Center. Having really excellent people we get to work with in every aspect, in marketing and booking, in administration, tech and stage work, front of house, logistics, concessions, all of it. We just have a stellar team here. It's super fun to be a part of.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well then on the flip side, what would be the biggest challenges that you guys face with your job?
All those people I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Nathan.
Nathan, you show these pictures and I literally, my heart just starts pounding because I'm so afraid of heights. And so looking at that seems like that would be a very big challenge.
Yeah, that is part of the job description. You can't really be too afraid of heights. It's definitely interesting when you're up on the grid looking down and it's dark up where you're at, but it's light on the deck. That effect makes the grid standing on kind of disappear. So it kind of feels like you're walking on nothing 80 feet in the air.
No.
That could be a thing. Some of the more difficult things it is to do. And let me see, I just shared the wrong screen. Can I put it down here? Yes, can you see that? Here is a call sheet. So for an example of, this is one of our extreme type of
I don't know if we're seeing the call sheet anymore.
Okay, let's see. Let me, do you see it now? You see it now? Let's see. Let's try again.
Yeah, we're seeing the
assistant tech director doesn't know how to use Zoom. This can be a problem.
It's a new technology.
Here, let's try again. Share screen. Let's all experience this together, everybody. But to give an example, let's see, share screen number 2. Can you see this? Can you see this?
Yes.
No, coming up? Okay. So here's an example of a call sheet. And we say we had Ballet Fantastique in on a Monday. So this is a local dance company, a ballet company. And they had a load in one theater, and they had to do tech. And at the meantime, The Bachelor Live was on stage. So during the Bachelor Live on stage in the Silva Theater needed a separate crew. So I had to make sure all these were booked according to the union contract and according to the needs of the Bachelor Live on stage.
And so on the far right, it's like what their role is.
Sure. So over here is the actual show. Here's the theater that they're in, their call time. And then this is their description. You have a carp, you have a riggers, you have downriggers, you have electrics, you have fly. Then you have all the grips in the area, and grips are basically assistants to the leads. And you have a carpenter grip, a prop grip, and you have electrics grips and sound grips, and the list goes on and on and on. And you know, here's just an example of one day getting everybody into spots, making sure they have all their lunch breaks according to the union contracts, and you know, and then oh, that's right, making sure the everything's going well in the upstairs theater at the same time. This is just kind of a snapshot of my brain, really. You know, Michael Pollan's coming in. Oh, that's right, Michael Pollan's coming in the next day, Thursday. So we got to make sure that there's a good load-in crew for that. You know, maybe some notes about how the flow of the call is going to go.
So how far in advance do you try to do all of these schedules?
We try to be a month in advance with actually getting in contact with our team. Tries to be a month in advance, getting in contact with the user. And that user might be, say in this instance, SpongeBob, the musical, and where they're going to have very specific needs for our stage. So we address some of their needs, and then I try to have a crew call out within 3 weeks to 2 to 3 weeks of the crew call, so that they know what they're doing, at least get the day right. I don't know if I'll get the time right. But you know, this is one of our massive calls where we just have tons of people in the building at the time. You know, tons of people in wardrobe. We have tons of people. I keep saying tons, but I just feel that way.
But it is. I mean, it's pages of people. All the
pages. Yeah, this is what people. We can have upwards of 60 people on deck doing different jobs. You know, intertwined. We have carpentry, and we have electrics building over carpet. Sometimes they're waiting for one another so that one can go up and one can build underneath it. It all needs to be organized in a way that makes sense to everybody. And so this is a good example of one of our crazy weeks. Right, Jeff?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And oh, remember this one? This was the opera that loaded in overnight with a light hang. Okay.
Oftentimes,
try not to have PTSD.
stagehands can be working all hours of the day and night.
Yes, depending on the needs of the user. Like in that instance where the ballet or the Eugene Opera needs to load in a certain day, and you know, lighting needs to happen before anything else. So if there's a light hang, we have to, which that means is we get instruments on stage, we hang them on the battens, which are the pipes, you know, that fly up and down in the air. And once the hang happens, then the load-in can happen, but the load-in has to happen after the hang so that the light focus can occur after that. So once the scenery is built on deck, then there needs to be what's called a light focus call. And that's when folks come in and focus light on all the areas and make it look pretty. And that's like the magic of theater, right? Is you could take a bed sheet kind of painted with splotches on it and use lighting to make it look like a garden.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That's so interesting. It's helpful to see the call sheets too, to see how many, I mean, we talk about all the different roles, but how many moving parts in 1 week could be, you know, going in and out of the building. Jeff, do you have anything to add with like challenges with your job?
Yeah, I was just looking here to see if I had a couple of pictures to add to it, but I think that's the biggest piece that Nathan just mentioned is it's so, there's so many moving parts. And if you're a linear thinker and you just slot A, tab B, you have to think like an air traffic controller, which is why Nathan's really good at what he does, is because he was a flyman. He had to think three-dimensionally about pieces that are in one plane plus things that are coming in up and down. So when you're putting a stage together, that's a lot of what's going on. And when you see, sometimes you walk onto a job site and you see a lot of men and women standing around and they're all dressed in black and you're like, why are they standing around? What are they doing? Well, they're actually kind of hurry up and wait. They're purposefully waiting because there might be 20 people standing by to unload a truck and they have to unload it exactly when the car for the person who's the leader on stage needs it. So again, these big truck shows that are coming in, things have to come off in a ballet. They have to come off exactly at the right time and go up at the right time. Otherwise, they'll be in the way and it hazards the start of the show. So there's this very purposeful rhythm that happens on the stage. And sometimes it even looks like nothing's going on when in fact it actually is. We're waiting for the next piece to come in and as soon as it's ready, bang, we go. So it's really an interesting thing to watch if you ever have a chance to just watch a big load in sometime.
Yeah. Well, it's,
Really,
yeah, it's
really
really
cool.
interesting to like hear about the load-in process, see the call sheets, and know that during all of this, you're planning a month ahead for the other shows. So it's like to say that there are a lot of moving parts is almost an understatement because there are so many moving parts. I mean, there's so many different, aspects of the job, but it's got to keep you on your toes.
For sure.
Definitely does.
For sure.
Um, Jeff, were you going to show something?
I'm just looking here. I just saved a bunch of pictures and I'm trying to see if they did it right. Hold on. Here we go.
Okay.
Yeah. So back to the kind of purposeful ballet. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah. And I'm trying to share my screen. Here we go. Got it. Okay. I see a picture of a big blank ball field there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. I get it. So this is a picture of the Dell Diamond Stadium in Austin, Texas. And this is a show I worked a couple of years ago. And basically we, if a tour rolls in, and wasn't even a specific tour, this is something I love about the job. That's the category this falls under. This is a production company. So guys like me, again, that come in from all over the country on planes, land in a certain city, end up in a hotel, figure out how to do this, and then bring in multiple tour pieces into one festival stage, which is a pretty interesting dance. So you start out with a big blank stage or a big blank ball stadium like this, and then you start to have to think of all the pieces. Okay, we need stages, we need chairs, we need electrical, we need all of the places for trucks to load and unload. So meanwhile, you have all these folks that are coming in trying to figure out how to put all this together. So we're putting together stage pieces. Whoops, can't find it. Sorry, guys. Big stage lids. This is one that's really low because it's about to crank up on towers and go up into the air. We can fly things off of it. And by the time you're ready to go to showtime and you got a full arena, full of 30,000 people, you've had to put together this interesting puzzle. And again, this is where I like to be. It's super fun to be on stage at the Drum Riser or somewhere looking back out of the crowd. In this particular case, an interesting aspect, this is the back side of the stage you're looking at. So you can see, if you can see my little pointer here, here's the big, what do you call them? Scaffolding, there we go. That have big speakers hanging off of it, big stage lid right here. And it was on a ball field and we couldn't drive trucks onto it. So how do you get, 16 different acts gear onto stage without being able to drive onto the grass? Well, what happened was we had to, Stagehands, the local from Austin, built us this giant ramp that went all the way off the back of the stage and then went all the way to where we could bring in little bobtail trucks and bring all their gear in. So the gear is actually out in the parking lot in trucks. So all these different trucks from tours are backing up to this little mini stage that we built. We throw it onto another truck and we bring it back out to this ramp and line it all up, and we get the next act ready to go, next act, next act, next act. So, again, whether you do it in a theater like Nathan and I do, where we get to deal with lots of moving parts, but usually one or two things at a time. Here's an example. If you were in tours and festivals, when we do that kind of thing, when COVID's over, this is the kind of logistical puzzle that's very interesting and very fulfilling to solve, but also can be very stressful because a lot of things are riding on this. And a lot of people are waiting for you. And if you aren't decisive, if you can't move through and say this, then this, then this, then this, a lot of people are standing around going, and people are effectively losing money, and that's a drag and not a good thing. So we had, in this particular case, we had 6 tours worth of gear. It just looks like a big, mess. And what it all means is that we had the last tour of the night was all the way at the back of the stage, and then we built forward. So as we went throughout the day, we just peeled their gear off, take it out, move the next one forward, peel their gear off, move the next one out. So it's kind of a fun thing to do. And it's fun to watch people enjoy shows and sideways, sorry. But yeah, whoa.
Well, yeah, no, it's really helpful to see the before picture and then to see everything that you had to do. And like you said, having to solve the problems, like you can't drive a vehicle on there. That's the creative aspect of stuff, which is pretty cool. Problems.
Yeah, fun stuff. And then one more, let's see, I will show you one more funny thing here. So yeah, so then there's all the moments where you're just trying to fix stuff and figure stuff out. So I don't know if you can see the look on my face, but I'm on a truss in the air tearing apart a chain motor because it wasn't working. So there's always those in the moment, like the truss is in the air, it's going up, and the chain motor farts out and stops. I'm sorry, brakes, stops. And so now it's like, well, okay, we can wait and we'll lose money, or the show won't go on, or somebody like me or like Nathan or one of our local hands has to climb up there and fix it.
Yeah, it's hands on, ready to go.
Yeah, so it's a little
That's
bit like being a theater fireman.
Yeah.
You have to question and fix it. So
I love it. So you guys have both talked a little bit about your personal pathway, which I want to get to, but I'm curious if you could kind of give an idea of how one would get started in this career. I know you've talked a little bit about the union. What type of schooling would somebody need to get started in this career pathway? Give suggestions.
Well, I come from the radio world. I actually went to school to be in radio. Quickly discovered, and I was actually the chief engineer of KWVA radio in Eugene, the campus radio station at the University of Oregon, and that was just from being available at the time and working myself up and then making a contract with them. But so my path to theater was a friend. I was working in radio, and a friend said, "Hey, I think Les Miserables is coming to the Hult Center, and it's huge, and they have this big turntable they have to build on stage." And I go, "Turntable? I'm in radio." No, a different kind of turntable. It's a big, giant, actual turntable where there's sections of scenes where they turn it and they make a scene, and then it turns and the audience sees it. And I went, "Oh, that sounds kind of cool." So I was asked, or I approached the business agent at the time of the local. It was Pam Sherman, and she says, "Of course," and she put me on the extras list. And that's something you can really easily do when there's big shows, is get on an extras list. The union.
And anybody can do that. Like if you're like, I want to learn.
Well, I think nowadays what would happen is you'd apply, you'd turn in a referral application with the union, and then they'd put you on a list, and then when
Okay.
calls, you get called to be an extra. But a part of that vetting process is that you'd want to have some skills, like where stage left is, where stage right is, what downstage is, kind of a map in your mind of where things, and a lot of times when you're first starting a theater and of this caliber, it's a lot of box pushing. So we're pushing boxes one side, we're getting them out, we're pushing them back into the truck. There's a lot of that occurs right at the beginning, but then you slowly start to learn other parts of the craft, and you gravitate towards them, and then you tell the business agent, "Well, I really enjoy or I have experience with say carpentry or sound or electrics," and then you're evaluated some more, and then you're put into those positions, and then you're evaluated some more. It's kind of a peer-based system as far as the union's concerned. Getting there, I think, helps if you are working in college theater, or have gone to school for theater of some kind, and just know some of the nomenclature that comes with it.
I don't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to ask, you were talking about how you started because you'd heard that they were bringing in Les Mis. So
Yes.
we have a question here that was asking, how does one find out if they're doing a big show or bringing a big show in? Would it still be going through the same process and then hoping to be called in to work on a large show? Sure.
Once you're on that list, then looking for a show, I guess that would be difficult. You'd want to definitely check out the Hult Center calendar and know what shows would be big and what shows wouldn't. And that would probably just be reaching out and asking, boy, I see that SpongeBob is coming. How big is that? Is that something where I can get on the list? Is that something that's available? And the business agent of the local dispatches those extras is used to doing, fielding those types of requests and comments, and can answer that question. But it's not difficult to get on a show.
Okay.
If you know a little bit about theater.
That's really helpful to know. So you don't have to have a higher degree to be part of the union.
Correct. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to have even a high school degree, but you need to have a knowledge of the craft. It is a craft-based, it's a skill. It's skill-based. It helps to have a degree, absolutely, because then you excel quickly in the areas that you're good at, and which means work. If you're good at what you do, you get called back.
Okay, that's good to know. And then Jeff, how was your pathway, and what advice do you have for folks entering the field?
Yeah, for sure. So when I started, there weren't schools you could go to for audio. So I was a audio engineer, front of house engineer for rock tours and things like that. And there wasn't any place you could go. You had to find somebody who'd take pity on you and show you things, or, DJ or like Nathan said, in a radio station, and I did that too, or work with local bands, things like that. Nowadays, there's professional degree programs that you can engage, a couple across the country that are really good. Mentorship is still a really strong opportunity when you can find it, somebody who will pour into you and tell you about what they do and why they do it. I think that's a pretty big deal, and is very valuable if you can get a hold of it. Community college in our local area, community college is a great way. If you want to know how to get your hands on, scenics and stuff, and learn how to work with things, going out to Lane Community College and, take a class or two. They've got regular classes for that. University of Oregon's got classes for that. Most major universities have a humanities program that has some form of theater, and that's a great way to cut your teeth and, like Nathan said, get into basic things, basic electrics, basic scenics, learning about building props and stage, things like that. If your passion's music, then you probably want to look for another outlet. There's a friend of ours in town that works with a lot of the local clubs and music groups that come through. A young man that works with our cultural services group, who does that. That's his pathway in. When I started out, I was a part of a really big church that had a really big sound system and a lot of bands and choirs and things, and that's where I learned how to do stuff. Every weekend I was back there turning knobs, and for a while everything was worse when I turned a knob. It wasn't good, and then it got better as I learned. People would turn around and stare at me when it squealed and made noise. And so, yeah, that was my pathway. And I got involved in a really musically active local faith community, and they were doing that. I worked my way up.
Not to interrupt, I'm sorry. I'm curious, if you are working as a stagehand, and obviously you have to have some knowledge of the craft, but it sounds like from both of your experiences that there was some mentorship along the way that you do learn as you're working.
Yeah.
Like, is that sort of how a lot of people experience?
It depends on where you go. I can think of places that I was mentored and places where I was not.
Okay.
And again, what you want to do is try and find a supportive group of people that are interested in helping you get better at the craft. I know there's, and sometimes you're just hungry enough that you don't care how they treat you. To be honest, you just want to be there, right?
Yeah.
That's true about anything. I want to learn to play guitar, and so I'm going to go sit with this guy who's kind of a jerk, but he's a great guitar player, and I'll learn something.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Yeah, right. It depends on what you want to do, but I think the thing that makes you better is reps, getting in and doing it. So sometimes what you have to do is say, I think I want to do this professionally, but for a while, I'm just going to take every opportunity, whether it pays or not, and I'm just going to get reps. I'm going to get better, and I'm going to get a reputation. So one of the things Nathan mentioned that's really important, that's preceded me my whole career, is my reputation. When I come in, somebody knows who I am and that I'm a hard worker and that I can deliver. And that's just something I've built over the years of doing it. So my reputation precedes me, which is good. Hopefully it's good, right? So but the opportunities don't always come as a full-time pay gig. And as Nathan pointed out, when you're getting in on the union, if that's kind of where you want to be and you want to find regular work, our union stagehands, when we're not in COVID times, make a decent living. They have insurance, and they are local hands that work here at the hall, and all kinds of good things. So it's a job, and it's a hard job.
Well, that actually goes into my next question, which is if you could talk about average salaries for the type of work that you do. So your positions, but also if you are able to touch on what union workers kind of make, or even a range, would be really helpful.
Tell them what you make, Nathan. No.
Tell us what you make.
$500,000.
Range-
Great. I got
Millions of pennies.
on Sophie's Island. My job description. Well, so let's start with the stagehands. The stagehands average, depends on how much you work, but they average about between 25 to, because of the nature of the work here in Eugene, there isn't, we're kind of a smaller market, so you're not working full time. So the house crew here works about 3/4 time when we're not in COVID era, obviously, and they make between $25,000 and $35,000 a year. Oftentimes, this isn't their first job. This is a second job. So sometimes you're pairing with other jobs. One thing that's interesting about the union is you can go work other job opportunities if you're not a house crew person here that's dedicated to just the Hult Center. So that would mean jobs over at Night Arena. That would mean jobs over at Kesey, the Cuthbert Amphitheater, and the McDonald Amphitheater or McDonald Theater. That same crew works hand in hand. They'll go back and forth, work from one to the other. Some are working jobs in hotel AV work. So it's just, this is just kind of a part of that process, and having all of those different jobs under a single union contract means you can have multiple entities give you buckets of money, and that also buckets of money. What am I trying to say here?
Literally buckets. We pay
lots of buckets. It's having many buckets to collect for a single thing. So for like healthcare. So
that's what I guess my question is, that if you're part of the union and you work shows at the Hult Center and you work shows at Matthew Knight Arena,
yeah,
and kind of schedules that for you. Like you're not out there trying like hustle and get the work, right? It's all done through the union and the contract.
Well, yeah, once you're on a call list, then you move up the call list as your seniority moves up or your skill level works up.
Okay.
I think there's different ways of moving up that list, and one is getting certified in your craft. That means getting certifications that count in the industry, such as CTS. I guess we could talk about that a little bit too. Like a CTS certification is good for projection and video. Getting your ETCP certification for rigging is another good way to get yourself an immediate rigging job. People for skilled ETCP riggers, and getting your OSHA card. Getting stuff like that so that you're compliant with some of the standards in the industry is actually will get you places quickly.
Okay, that's good to know. And where would one be able to find that information? Like,
well, let's see. ETCP certification for rigging is available. I guess we'd have to Google that. I don't have it available per se of how, but ETCP is one way of doing it. One way is going to the IATSE. Let me say that slower, IATSE.net, and
they'd have that information there.
It has some information about it, skilled up.
And so then with salary, with like an assistant tech director, or Jeff,
Sure.
What would
so my salary is about between $60,000 and $70,000 a year.
Okay, that's really helpful to know.
In fact, I think I just got a 30-cent raise.
You got a raise.
30 cents. 30 cents.
So yeah, I mean, there's different, Jen, you touched on it. There's different kind of ways to go about this. There's sort of the gypsy lifestyle, which a lot of us have done when we were younger. You sort of get on the road and you work festivals and shows, and you pick up $400, $500 a day shows or whatever. And, you go where the bus takes you and that kind of thing. Your expenses are pretty low and it's fun for a while. The minute I got married and had a couple of kids, I thought, hey, I should have insurance, and hey, I should be home more and things like that. And, it depends on what you want to do lifestyle wise, but that was definitely a transition point for me from where I went to gigging and hustling and went more into, I think I probably need to find more of a steady gig. And the benefit of the Hult Center is that we can do both. We got steady gig people here. We got the Nathans and the Jeffs who show up every day to work and go for it. And then we've got our union stagehands, which some of them are, as Nathan mentioned, are house hands, which means they are City of Eugene employees just like us. And they report here and they have regular hours and they have insurance packages and all the things a regular City of Eugene employee has. Then we have what are called overhires, which are people where Nathan literally tells the union hall what he needs. He says, I need extra people. I need 5 extra people this week. I need an electrician, a sound grip, and he just goes through his list. And those people send the next people on the call list. So it's like you're waiting in line at the union hall, right? Not really, but virtually. So those people tend to work more multi-gig lifestyle. And when we're cooking, which we pre-COVID really were, we see a lot of the same people regularly, and they pretty much have close to full-time work by the end of the year because they'll work in spurts. And one of the things those guys are really good at is making a whole bunch of money and then having a break, and then making a whole bunch of money and having a break. And they're good at budgeting, and they're good at gigging and painting houses and doing other things because they love the lifestyle. So
Right.
It's less about going to a place every day, hitting your time card, receiving a monthly check, and more living a life with some freedom. So that was the number one thing for me when I started out. It was a lot of fun. It was an artistic endeavor, and it was a ton of freedom. I could kind of go and do whatever I wanted to, when I wanted to, go make a bunch of money, come back, stop for a while. And then when it was time to have a more regular gig and have a family, I can do that. So does that make any sense?
It does.
Yeah.
I want to continue that as well, because the hiring hall is just that. It's a document that the union operates. But back in the day, the hiring hall was physically a hall at the side of the theater. So if you really wanted to get on a show and make some extra money at a theater, you'd go sit in that hiring hall. You'd sit on a bench in the hall, and because you would know from a friend that would told you when the call time was.
Wow.
Sit there, and then you'd be waiting to be an extra, and it was really literally a first come first served basis. So if you got there first, you sat in the hiring hall, a little window would open up. They go, next, we need an electrician. And because all of a sudden something went awry with and this is mostly San Francisco, and San Francisco theater, they'd say something would be awry. They'd need another electrician. They'd need somebody right away that they didn't plan for because they weren't good at planning back then. And so that literally that next person would come on stage and they'd say, you're hired, and that's the hiring hall. So that was that's where the term came from. And
that's amazing.
It's, everything is based on call based, and it's, software based. So it's still called a hiring hall though. And it's actually a hiring hall document that stagehands sign when they first come as an.
Or what Nathan said, now he's doing it 2 weeks to a month out, and it's not the sitting on the bench every day waiting to get hired. He's saying multiple weeks in advance, this is what we need. So people can kind of plan, and your life becomes a little more, you
I'd really like to have that little window and open it up. Next.
Let's bring it back. That's really interesting. That's interesting. And it's really neat that the job can look so many different ways depending on your lifestyle and what you want. And that's really neat. I feel like not so many career paths are like that, where you can kind of be like, I want something a little bit, like you said, flexible, where you're working a lot and then not, or consistent day to day. And I think that's a pretty special, special thing about the work that you do.
And I think I'd add this one thing, because you asked about mentoring relationships and things. I think if somebody's really passionate about a specific area of the arts, if they want to get a hold of you and see about connecting beyond just, hope there's a show coming, I wonder if we could ever, work on that. If somebody wants to look for a deeper connection, I know both Nathan and I can, try and help route people to, to a pathway to at least taste a little more deeply what's going on in this career path. So that's a thing I'd offer out. People did that for me, and I know that we're able to do that up to a point for people as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
Take a look at the hall and see what's going on here. So
yeah, folks can welcome to reach out to me and I can connect. We did have a question, which I think Nathan addressed, the job salary ranges. You said between 60 and 70,000 for assistant technical director. And then Jeff, are you able to give a range for what either a technical director or director of theater and facility operations, like a general?
Yeah, so I'm holding 2 titles right now, a technical director position and then the ops director. It's kind of mashed into one thing, so it's atypical right now. And it's, I'd say it just as you walk up the range, it goes in about $10,000 chunks. So
okay,
70 to 80 range for a technical director, ops director slightly more, but not during COVID times.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. So those were most of my questions. And so I'm going to see if we had a couple more questions, if anybody that's on the call wants to type it either into the chat or into the Q&A section, and I can ask them. And I will note that one of our attendees found the link for the ETC.
I see that.
Yes, so that's in the chat. So if anyone's interested with that,
Good work.
right there. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, Christy, are you available?
Yeah.
Here's my window.
So if anyone has any other questions, we'll give it a minute. But do either of you have anything else that you want to add, or like any advice or words of wisdom for students or folks that are interested?
Yeah, you know, working with people is my favorite thing. And let me see if I can share this last little thing here. Or can you see me? Can you see this at all?
I'm seeing a
You're just-
slide.
Yeah, you're just seeing that. Okay. Well, you're gonna have to look at the full picture here. We transformed this room into this room. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. And working with these people and these close relationships is just my favorite thing out of working in theater, money aside. You know, I did say some stagehands make 20 to 30. If you live in different markets, say Portland, others, regular stagehands full-time work can net you up to 90,000 to 100,000 a year, depending on what, you know, how much you're working. So it's really kind of your own. You get to dictate your own salary really when it comes to stagehand work, depending on how much workload you put into it. So I think that needs to be noted. There's always happy people and safe people. There's that Jerry working on the rail there. And represented employees are always dedicated to the craft. We always like to have a little bit of fun. I got to say this is me on Halloween. That is a knife in my back.
The knife in your back?
Yes. And we always like to poke a little fun too. Sometimes the audio crew and the like to poke fun at each other.
That's a great picture.
Good point. Being an audio engineer is easy. It's like riding a bike, except for the bike is on fire, you're on fire, everything's on fire. Yeah. So there are some stressful times that can occur because the end goal is, you know, the people that are involved want to have a good time. These folks have been in the local 675 crew. These are some of the folks, the house crew that have been around for years and years and years. That's me. That's a skinnier me right there. And sometimes you even get to meet some famous people, and I think that's pretty amazing.
Oh, cool.
So, but the end goal, if it doesn't kill you, we want to perform for the people right here.
Yeah.
And the end goal is to make sure every person in this seat has a good experience, and that's a shared goal, no matter how much you get paid or what your benefits are, and that's part of the fun of having this job, and I really do appreciate that. Now, how do I stop you?
Those are so great, those pictures. Well, it doesn't look like we have any other questions. So thank you both for doing this. This was really helpful, and I've been recording it, so it'll go up on our YouTube page. So we will continue to spread the video, and so others can learn. But again, if anyone's interested in connecting with Nathan or Jeff, feel free to reach out to me.
And don't give up. If you want to do it, there's a way to do it. Just keep going for it.
Yes, I like it. Okay, well, thank you. And I hope everyone has a lovely rest of their evening. Bye.
Bye.